Okay, well, first of all, thank you very much. A real pleasure to be here and with this terrific panel. I'm going to sort of riff a little bit off of what my predecessors have said since you've touched on the themes I wanted to touch on. The first thing I wanted to start by saying, which really echoes what Jared said, is nobody knows anything. So you may ask, why are you sitting here listening to us? Maybe so we can collectively contemplate our ignorance in the face of this incredibly rapid change. But I thought Jared made a great point in saying, really this technology revolution, it is profound. It's there, whether you like it or not. And it is moving at, I think, a quicker pace than we really fully realize. We now think of Google as a sort of old legacy company. They had to kind of move aside their CEO so that they could have a younger guy running it because they're worried about the threat posed by Facebook. Just think about that. Google, already old, already being somehow outpaced by Facebook, which, to some extent is maybe being pushed aside by Twitter. It's a really, really incredibly rapid pace of change. Another example of that, I think, is the incredibly swift adoption of the iPad, quicker than any other device. And I think that we haven't even begun to think about the ways in which the iPad is going to change not just how media is consumed, but ultimately how media is produced. Like Marie, I'm Canadian, so I'm proud of Marshall McLuhan, the great Canadian thinker about all this stuff. And his point, the medium is the message, is more true, I think, today now than ever. So if we accept that no one knows anything, and I think also I'd just like to echo Jared's point that what I think further complicates the process is it's no longer just the geniuses in Silicon Valley constantly coming up with new stuff and coming up with things, by the way, that they don't even know the implications of. When you talk to the people creating things there, one of the things most astonishing for me is they just throw stuff out there. It's a real hacker culture. They have no idea how it's actually going to be used or what's going to work. But as Jared pointed out, you then have the force of globalization complicating things further and magnifying the impact. So something that was created by some 18-year-old kid in Silicon Valley, he has no idea whether it's going to work or not. Then somebody in Iran or in Tanzania uses it in a different way, and it changes again. So established, I think, as a baseline, really, things are changing incredibly quickly. And anyone who tells you, if there are any management consultants here who plan to go out and say to your clients, we can tell you what to do with new media, do not trust that person. That person is a liar. Second point, though, which I think is actually the one truth that we do know, and again, this is something that the three panelists speaking before me have mentioned, is at core, at least in open societies, societies that aren't totalitarian, the net impact of new media is to be empowering of the individual versus the hierarchy. That is really, really significant for media creators in particular. And I think, we tend to think about how new media creates opportunities for user-generated content, for citizen journalism, that whole thing. What I think we are only now starting to grapple with, at least ancient legacy media types like me, is it is also creating user-generated editing. And I think that that's what you were talking about a moment ago. That is a really revolutionary thing, and this impact of the Facebook communities, I am absolutely confident that 5 years from now, maybe 2 years from now, it won't just be Facebook we're talking about, but some other way for people to connect. The fact that the high priests of journalism, right, people like me, people like Martin, sure, we want to be the trusted curators who help you figure out the complexity of the world, and you come to us and we tell you what's important every day. Please rely on us for that. We need you to, because we need to have jobs. But the scary reality is a lot of people are now relying on their friends for those recommendations. Now, I don't think that those two universes can't exist simultaneously, but whereas I think we have sort of gotten our minds around the idea that the creation of content no longer is the sole province of sort of official journalists, what I think is the next step, and we're only at the beginning of it, is the curation of content, the editing of content is not going to be done just by the official paid professionals. It's going to be done by everybody in their own way. Final point that I wanted to make is maybe carrying on with this theme of the paradoxical impacts, which is even in this universe where truly even our Google genius really doesn't know anything about what's going to happen, and where the sort of the priesthood, the official professionals who were the official editors, were not in control anymore. Even in this space, the final perverse consequence of new media, I think, is to accelerate and exacerbate the superstar phenomenon, and to allow superstars, maybe brands, but I think actually chiefly individuals, to emerge much more quickly, much more independently, with much greater power. And my actual favorite example of this is Sarah Palin. Think about how quickly the Sarah Palin brand has emerged, and think about the extent to which that is an independent brand created from her house in Alaska. Progressive politicians in the United States like to talk about how she needs the Fox News network as her platform. I think the really interesting thing that Sarah Palin has discovered is she doesn't even need Fox. You know, after the Tucson shootings, she put up a video herself. She just she taped it in her house, she put it up online, and that drove the U.S. political discussion. It was almost as important as the State of the Union, as the speech that President Obama gave. So in this, perversely, in this universe which is leveling so many different things, so chaotic, so hard to navigate, brands, especially individual brands, can be created with incredible speed.